What's up, Sixers fans? Welcome to 7-6 Live Countdown presented by Tissot. I'm your host, Christian Crosby, and as you can see behind me is Squad 7-6, and the Sixers and Sixers basketball is here as always. I want to remind everybody, NBA All-Star voting 2021 is in full effect. I need to remind all of my diehard Sixers fans, we need you. We're trying to get our guys to the game. Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid. All you got to do is go to NBA.com or the NBA app or Twitter, hashtag NBA vote, and use both names for your favorite player. That's Joel Embiid, that's Ben Simmons, that's Tobias Harris. Hashtag NBA vote, hashtag their name, and post that bad boy on Twitter. All right, we got to get our guys in that game. It's very important. We need that representation for Philadelphia at the All-Star game. Now let me remind you about the Sixers mobile app. You can redeem your Wendy's prize there because, ladies and gentlemen, the Wendy's Frosty Freeze Out is back, baby! Oh, yeah. I know I sound a little crazy, but who doesn't love a free Frosty? When the opposing team hits that free throw line in the second half and miss twice, we're all getting a small Frosty. If they do it twice in a game, that means we're getting a small Frosty and a small fry, and if they do it for a third time tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting a medium fry and a medium Frosty, and we all love it. That's why we're holding these signs up and celebrating. All right, let's get to the fun. You know what time it is. It's game time. Here they come. Let's go, Sixers!
Love the energy and enthusiasm from Christian Crosby. It's always there, but especially on a big night like tonight, we've got the 76ers, the Brooklyn Nets, two of the top teams, not just in the Eastern Conference, Lauren Rosen, but the entire NBA. Nets aren't going to be at full strength. No Kyrie Irving, no Kevin Durant. 76ers do seem like they'll be at full strength. Either way, still a big game, and James Harden expected to be on the court for the first time in Nets uniform against the 76ers.
Yeah, Celts, it's not the matchup that maybe we were anticipating or hoping to see as fans of this game at the highest level. But Doc Rivers talked to reporters just a few moments ago, and he said, look, the Sixers have taken a hit due to health and safety protocols themselves right after actually the last time the team played Brooklyn. So while it's not maybe the marquee matchup we were expecting, the Sixers have been on the unfortunate end of not having people available, and that's where the Nets are tonight. Hopefully the Sixers will be able to capitalize on their lack of star power, but like you said, James Harden still will make sure that they have their hands full.
And while I think that some of these NBA teams might have empathy for their peers when last-minute things come up and players are removed from lineups due to health and safety protocols, I think that empathy stops before it gets to a point where they feel sorry for the opposition, because every team has had to go through some sort of situation just about related to health and safety protocols throughout the league. Listen, it's essentially fair game and circumstances that every team is either going to have to deal with at some point or has dealt with already. So you just play who and whoever's out there is next on the schedule. And for the Sixers, this is an opportunity to gain further separation between themselves and Brooklyn. Coming into tonight, the 76ers 16-7, first in the East. Brooklyn is pretty close, 14-10 behind them, 2.5 games in between the two of them. But this is a great opportunity for the Sixers to even the season series and get 3.5 games between themselves and Brooklyn.
Yes, indeed. And of course, to extend the lead over those Milwaukee Bucks, who are hovering in the number 2 spot currently. It is interesting to think about how much of the season there is left to play. But as we always say, all wins count for the same amount of wins. And it would be a good night for the Sixers to extend that lead a little further, looking to bounce back after a difficult night on Thursday.
I would expect, Lauren, both teams to come out hungry tonight. The 76ers and the Nets each coming off losses. Sixers, a tough one without Ben Simmons and then missing Seth Curry in the second half of Thursday's game, a 121-105 defeat to the Portland Trailblazers. And the Nets, they lost at home to the Toronto Raptors. And just to give some context around what we alluded to right at the start of the show, a game in which Kevin Durant was scratched right before tip. Then he came back out on the court to play in the first quarter, only to be removed from the game permanently in the third quarter. Now we're just getting word of reports from ESPN that Durant will likely rejoin the Nets next Friday, all due to health and safety protocols. So just a wild scene in Brooklyn last night. We're going to speak with Sarah Kustok, who's the analyst on the S Network for Brooklyn, about that a little bit more, but wild, to say the least.
It feels like every day there is something new, because every day there is definitely something new. It is a truly uncharted, unexperienced season, and every day brings a new challenge. Certainly that day was yesterday for the Brooklyn Nets. The Sixers experienced something similar, as you all remember, when they were back in Brooklyn a few weeks ago. So obviously best to Kevin Durant. We hope he heals up quick. And then Kyrie Irving, of course, not in the health and safety protocols, but also missing the game with a finger injury.
Listen, Lauren, when it comes to the game on Thursday against Portland, yes, it was a one-sided defeat. However, I kind of chalked it up, this is just me personally, the way I look at things, as, and it was what it was type of game. Didn't have Ben Simmons. I think everyone understands what his value is. Seth Curry, huge to floor spacing around Joel Embiid, wasn't available in the second half. Sixers coming in off the road where they played 3 games and won all of them. And then they had a game the very next night. I just it was not a pretty game, but it's also a game that me personally, I'm not freaking out about. I'm not particularly concerned about. I just, like I said, I kind of felt like it was what it was.
I'm with you there, Celts. You don't want to take scheduled type losses, but like you said, coming off the road, playing the second night of a back-to-back against a team that was pretty scrappy and probably felt like an underdog when they took the floor due to how many folks were out for Portland. And Doc Rivers said after the game, he didn't like the way they played offense. He didn't like the way they played defense, but also that this isn't who this team is. I believe that tonight you'll see a little bit more of the Sixers' identity. Danny Green said this morning that they don't intend to ever lose 2 games in a row, so tonight's the opportunity to make good on that promise.
All right, let's go to the tape. Doc Rivers speaking about the 76ers performance from Thursday's loss to the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, we just didn't have energy. We didn't have it all game, Kai. And, I thought, teams know that. They feel that. And I thought in the third quarter, I guarantee you, they talked about it at halftime, like this team is dead on their feet right now, man. Let's try to push this lead up, and that's exactly what happened.
Amazing to me, Lauren. I was looking this up before the game. I was like, when was the last time the Sixers lost back-to-back games? And I literally did not remember the fact that they had that 3-game losing streak in the beginning of January, a month ago. That just feels like forever ago. So I think that what you said, paraphrasing what Danny Green's remarks were all about, that, yeah, I would expect a requisite level of focus from the Sixers tonight after a loss on Thursday.
And it does feel that maybe aside from Thursday's loss, the other losses that this team has taken have been ones that are rather understandable, especially when they were affected by the health and safety protocols in January, as you alluded to. So look for the Sixers to come out hot tonight and capitalize on their last chance to play on their home court for about a week and a half, Celts. It's going to be a while before we see them back in South Philadelphia after tonight.
And they're not going to be anywhere close. It's crazy. 76ers going out on a 4-game Western Conference road trip starting on Tuesday night. For the Sixers, no Ben Simmons on Thursday. I think it was very obvious how important Ben Simmons is to the 76ers. Their defense certainly suffered. They couldn't move the balls effectively without Ben. And I think as we take a look at Ben's line on the season, Lauren, just so steady, so well-rounded on both ends of the floor. He's number 1 in the NBA in this stat called defensive box plus minus, which essentially estimates your value above the average player in the league when you're on the court and what you do in terms of point differential. So he's number 1 in defense in that category, and he's number 2 in deflections overall. I mean, we know how good Ben Simmons is, and that certainly, I think, came to light in the game on Thursday.
No doubt about it. I think Doc Rivers was not happy to not have Ben on the court, but he was happy to be able to draw attention to how impactful Ben can be when he is on the court on both sides of the ball. And as we talk about frequently, it's not always indicated in the stat line, but the difference he makes on the offensive end and on the defensive end for this team cannot be underestimated. And Thursday night's game, for better for worse, proved that point.
Let us go back to the tape once again. We'll hear from Doc Rivers summing up his thoughts on the 76ers not having Ben Simmons on Thursday.
Oh, I thought we missed his presence all over the floor. That's the point I try to make to you guys when we start talking about Ben not taking threes. And I keep trying to tell everyone, Ben's value is so much more than what you guys are talking about. And you could see it early on today, just defensively. He spearheads our defense, But here's the bottom line, though. We still have to be a decent defense when Ben's not on the floor. We were a bad defensive team tonight, but I thought we were worse offensively. And I thought our offense contributed to a lot of our bad defense as well.
I will say this also, Lauren, that while for me personally, certainly as someone who is an outsider in the truest sense and having no personal stake in like how my job relates to wins and losses, that sort of thing, I did like hearing Joel Embiid and the tone that he struck after the game. Me personally, media person, whatever, it's okay if I can say, hey, that game might have been a schedule loss or there were circumstances there that were unfavorable to the Sixers. But I really liked hearing how seriously Joel Embiid took it after the game and was just something that he and the players weren't satisfied with. I think probably with effort and energy level more than anything else.
Yeah, we heard it from Joel. We heard it from Matisse Thybulle as well. Both of them didn't feel like that game was indicative of what this team should be able to do, of who they are, of what their identity is. And we heard from both of them as well about how important Ben Simmons is to this team. So if there was one big moral that came out of Thursday night, it was just how impactful Ben can be. And it'll be great to have him back available tonight against Brooklyn.
Yeah, he and Seth Curry are expected to be back in the starting lineup. Joel Embiid trying to stump and campaign for his fellow All-Star brethren in Ben Simmons in this year's game, which could be held in Atlanta. Here's Joe on Ben.
It was obvious. You look at the way Portland played. They attacked a lot of that were hunting down mismatches, especially try to, get guys, different guys guarding Melo or creating actions out of it, and that made us react a few times, and they got a bunch of threes out of that. So that's where, you miss him a lot because when he's on the floor defensively, especially with the guard play that Portland had tonight. It's hard to just, for the team to just try to look for mismatches because you're not gonna find any at all when he's playing. So we missed him a lot tonight. So hopefully, but the key thing is all about staying healthy. Those are the games we should win anyways. But we just didn't.
And to that point, Lauren, even if someone like a Damian Lillard or CJ McCollum weren't playing Thursday for the Trailblazers, they still have proven legitimate NBA scorers. I don't care how old Carmelo Anthony is. He can still do it. Gary Trent Jr. was effective. And if Ben Simmons were there and a player like that got hot, which they did, then you can immediately, if you're Doc Rivers, put Ben Simmons on that type of player, try and take care of the hot threat and go through the game. Sixers just didn't have that option and don't care if Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant aren't playing tonight. You've got James Harden out there for the Brooklyn Nets, and it's a great comfort to know that Ben Simmons is going to be out there for the Sixers as well in the defensive end.
Yes, indeed. Someone who's had success against James Harden in the past, and James Harden, of course, can win games on his own. So this team is still not to be underestimated just because they are absent. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. James Harden obviously has been one of the best, if not the best, scorers in this league for the recent past. Not someone to be underestimated. Good to have Ben Simmons back and available as a defender on Harden.
Listen, it is such a bummer that we can't all be in the arena at the center for games like this Saturday night, 8 o'clock prime time. But whether it's in physical presence or from afar with great vibes and thoughts, games like this continue to bring out the 76ers circle of stars. Christian Crosby, we throw it back to you.
I'm about to call the one and only DJ Jazzy Jeff. Here we go.
Yo, DJ Jazzy Jeff, what's good, baby?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad to be on the phone with the one and only. I wanted to call you and talk about the starting five Sixers team that is on fire right now. What are your thoughts?
Listen, I've never been more satisfied in my life. I was one of those people that was so against the trade because I felt that we had all of the pieces with all of the moves we did in the offseason, and the starting five was showing that I'm right.
You are not wrong. I just want to hear your overall take on like Philly sports.
Philly sports is real. I'm one of those people that I had season tickets with Jerry Stackhouse, Larry Hughes when we drafted, Lou Williams. Like, I'm super passionate, screaming, yelling. If you're not doing right, we let you know. And if you're doing great, we definitely let you know.
Is there anybody on the squad who's just really standing out to you more than others this year?
Well, Tobias is definitely having an all-star year. Seth is shooting lights out. Maxey is a pleasant surprise. Shake Milton is a superstar to me. You better watch out for Furkan. We are straight. He's got a lot of athleticism that people don't pay attention to.
Anybody who is a doubter of this Sixers squad, what do you have to say to them?
I like the fact, and I get upset that I turn on SportsCenter and I don't hear a lot about the Sixers. And I'm like, keep that same energy. It's the reason why we are leading the East.
Hey, all of you guys, keep that same energy. Anything you want to say directly to the team or to coach?
I'm a longtime Sixers fan, and I could not be more proud of my Sixers organization. I'm so happy that Doc Rivers came in. I'm so happy the way the team is playing, the way that they're bonding and building together, and I'm looking forward to that championship parade. Hey, this is DJ Jazzy Jeff saying, let's go, Sixers!
Hey, bro, thank you so much, man.
Love that. DJ Jazzy Jeff, super knowledgeable. You can tell just how hardcore he is to the 76ers, running down the roster, knowing who's hot, who's not. And I agree. I think for a while we didn't hear enough pub about the Sixers, Lauren, and what they've been doing, but that was tremendous. And great to see that you might be able to take DJ Jazzy Jeff out of Philadelphia at times, but he still reps the 215 in his handle. And you can tell he is Philadelphia through and through.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I love what they said. Keep that same energy when you forget to name the Sixers in your list of contenders this season. But you know what we can't be doing is forgetting about voting for Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, and Ben Simmons. The Sixers are leading the East. I had a chance to talk to Danny Green about tonight's game and about why these three should be all-stars. Take a listen.
Danny, we just heard reports that Kevin Durant would be questionable tonight. Kyrie would be out. So as a leader on this team and someone who really helps set the tone and the vibe for the whole group, how do you do that when you're not exactly sure who you're going to be facing?
It comes with maturity, and it's something this team needs, regardless of who's on the floor. We know the last two times this happened for us, these are trap games. You know, they sat all those. Well, James wasn't there the last time we played them. Kyrie and Katie both sat last time we played them, and you know we got a nice little whooping. We just took a whooping the other night against Portland when they had their guys out. So regardless who's on the floor, we better respect them and come out with that same energy, same focus as if they were on the floor. We're playing a top team because they still are a top team in the East and the league with the talent they have, with the pieces, regardless of who's on the floor. But yeah, we're not worried about them so much as we are worried about ourselves. We need to do better as a group and get better, mature, and you know, play up to a level we know we can play, regardless of, you know, injuries, protocols, or, you know, whoever decides to take a night off.
And then on a sort of different note, All-Star voting has begun. We just saw the first returns. Joel obviously making a case for All-Star and for MVP, but Ben and Tobias also in the mix when it comes to All-Star. So you've played with some awesome players in your time in the league. What do you think could make those guys All-Stars?
Us continuing to win, number one in the East and number one in the league. It's hard to argue getting, you know, not having at least three guys in All-Star game being top in the league. I think this year we get Tobias in. You know, he's been playing at a high level. Obviously, Ben and Joel are great. Joel's MVP caliber player, but we continue to win. Ben does his triple-double thing with Tobias, the way he's been playing and lifting us up offensively and defensively on the floor too, picking up his defense, really setting the tone for us. And he's got us out of some situations and got us some key wins. Big shot against the Lakers, big game against Indiana where we were down, 18. So he's definitely an all-star caliber player, and he's been playing at that level. So I think he definitely deserves to be there. So I know he just did the Woj podcast recently. Hope he probably get on Inside the Green Room soon, but we're going to try to push that guy as he deserves to be in the all-star game if there is one, which, I mean, nobody's a fan of it. But we definitely deserve to have 3 guys in the all-star game this year if we continue to keep winning games.
Awesome. Looking forward to your pod with him. Thanks, Danny.
Thank you.
Yes, you have to check out Inside the Green Room if you have not yet already. Danny, a great podcaster. Search for Inside the Green Room wherever you get your pods. Love it. He's been doing it for a while, and he's very good at it. You know what's crazy, Lauren, is that potentially 6 people on the Eastern Conference All-Star roster could be represented by the 2 teams that are playing in South Philadelphia tonight.
True enough. And obviously you wish that you could see all 6 of them in action. If you're just joining us now, we know that the Nets will be without Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving tonight, but James Harden and the Sixers, big 3, all expected to be available. It could be a clash of some Titans, and we're looking forward to it.
So the Brooklyn Nets come in with a record of 14-10. They lost to the Toronto Raptors in Brooklyn at Barclays Center last night, the game in which Kevin Durant was out, then he was in midway through the first quarter, then he was removed ultimately in the third quarter once again. We're seeing some reports being updated at this hour that he'll likely be back with the Nets by next Friday, and that he had contact 3 times with a Brooklyn Nets employee over the course of yesterday, and that was the cause for concern. Again, this is reported by ESPN for Kevin Durant, so that's why he is not playing tonight. Kyrie Irving is also out with his finger, but James Harden is in since joining the Brooklyn Nets 10 games ago. In the 10 games that he's played in, he's averaged around 23.5 points, which compared to some of his seasons is about 10 points per game less, which is crazy. 8 rebounds and then roughly 12 assists per game, which could be a career mark if he keeps that up. So he's finding his place, Lauren, with this Nets roster, and it's without question a power, I can't say shift, but power emboldenment with Brooklyn, adding yet another all-star and an MVP to their roster. And it'll be fun to watch how this whole thing plays out.
No doubt about it. James Harden sharing at a higher rate than maybe he had to while he was playing in Houston when he was the leading scorer in the league over the last couple of seasons. So tonight could be an opportunity for him to showcase both skills, scoring and sharing, distributing among his teammates, and picking up the slack that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving will not be able to give on the offensive end.
And I just want to clarify our lower third, new look or letdown. I think it's both things for me tonight. The Brooklyn Nets overall are new look, but a letdown for me. I wanted to see both these teams at full strength go head to head as we head into the home stretch of this first half of the season.
I would have loved to see that as well, Selt, but as we opened with, not a bad opportunity for the Sixers to notch a win that maybe could have been a more competitive game, an expected competitive game that could have led to a loss, maybe not quite as competitive without those 2, but as we've said a few times now, James Harden not to be underestimated. I think it'll still be a good one. I'm not going to be let down tonight.
I love that. Great, positive, optimistic outlook. We need it. We're going to get some insight right now from Sarah Kustok. She's the television analyst for the Yes Network, which carries the Brooklyn Nets game. Lauren and I had the chance to chat with her about an hour and a half ago. Sarah, the Nets, obviously one of the most compelling teams in the NBA. I know this is probably something that no one who experienced last night's game wants to talk about, but I got to ask, what was that like going through last night's game with Katie going in and out? I mean, it's crazy.
Brian, it was wild, and it was so bizarre as we were going through the game, calling the game. I know it was the same thing for fans watching and viewers, but in particular, when we heard after the game from Joe Harris, James Harden, Jeff Green, those that were experiencing it, and then, of course, Kevin himself, because the thought about it's a few minutes before the game, the fact that he's told to quarantine, be isolated in a room, You think it's okay. He's in the game. He gets pulled out again in the third quarter. So it really was something that I think just had a lot of people scratching their heads. I know this is for the league itself, for these teams, for all of us. Everything is uncharted territory. It's new. And everyone is trying to maintain a level of safety and caution. But it was certainly a unique situation, and one which you really just felt for Kevin himself, considering the fact that he's already had to take time off because of health and safety protocol and things of that nature. So it still remains a question exactly just how long this will last for him.
It's crazy to think about the time that's passed between the last times our teams met in Brooklyn. Since then, you guys added James Harden. What have been your sort of initial impressions of having another MVP in the fold?
Yeah, Lauren, it's crazy because I looked at the box score. You always kind of go back and look whether it's the previous game film or the box score, and I'm like, throw this out because it's an entirely different roster and personnel, of course, when it comes to the Nets and who is playing. But Lauren, I think the thing that has stood out most is been the way in which James has slowly acclimated himself to what his role looks like with this team, with this group. As we already spoke about Kevin last night, there's been moving parts and pieces of who's been in the lineup, whether it's been all three of those, Kyrie, James, and Kevin, missing some pieces due to health and safety protocols, personal leaves, injuries. But what we've seen when they have all been together is James really has been someone who has been a playmaker and creating. His volume of shots that we're accustomed to seeing him take, especially considering he led the league in scoring the last 3 years, has decreased, but he has been excellent in getting everyone involved. The organization that he's put into this offense and how it's orchestrated. And, you know, I think it's no secret that the Nets' issues have been on the defensive end and everyone trying to play their part to figure out how those areas can improve. But offensively, he's been just really special in his approach in making sure that he fits a role that the team needs, that also raises the level of not only complementary players on this team, but also when he's on the floor with Durant and Irving.
I know defense is something that Steve Nash has talked about. How is Steve Nash doing? You'd think under normal circumstances in a regular season, this would be an adjustment for him. And I guess it's a high-class problem to have. So much talent, the health and safety protocols the entire league has been dealing with. What type of tone has he tried to set amidst all of this? And what stood out to you about the way he's gone about his rookie season as a head coach?
I mean, talk about a rookie season and being tossed a lot of different things. And to your point, it's good problems to have when you look at this roster. You look at the fact that they have been very open in saying that they are competing for a title. That's their goal. And they're a long way from getting to the point where they feel like they will be, you know, acclimated and integrated together enough to feel like that is a reality. But it's been a slow process, and Steve Nash has been a major part of just learning on the job without really a very long training camp. That's been condensed, but essentially you throw that out the window because you got a new roster and a new team that you're looking at this point, not a lot of practice time, and that exists for all teams. But I think so much of what he's learning his first year as a head coach has been in the seat and in game action. And he always presents a level of calmness and poise when he's talking to us. And we appreciate his affability with the media and how insightful and honest he is. But it is a lot. And you would imagine too, just with the uniqueness of the season and trying to get guys together and trying to implement your systems, your philosophies, your principles, some of the challenges that exist for this year. But you can look on the other side of things, and Doc Rivers, of course, he's been at this forever, but he too has a new team and is facing some of those same challenges. So I think for everyone, it's one of those things where I guess Steve doesn't know what it's like in past years being a head coach. So this is what it is, but he's thrown himself into it with a lot of grace, and it is just showing a level of appreciation for someone who I think believes in challenges and loves to have things that motivate him to figure out exactly how to get this team playing at the level they believe they can be at.
Definitely a lot of newness on both sides for the teams facing each other tonight here in Philadelphia. Also a lot of uncertainty when you look at the injury report. But knowing what we do know, what do you look forward to most about watching these teams face off for the second time?
I'm excited to see, and to your point, the uncertainty with, who's going to be in the floor. Of course, it changes the complexion of games when you look at Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, what he's been, a level of consistency for the 76ers has been so much fun to watch. I think the big thing is just the fact that you've got a couple of teams that believe that they're some of the best in the Eastern Conference. So regardless of who is in the lineup, it is a big game. It's a Saturday night where they have an opportunity to come out here and go against a team that they expect to be, neck and neck with down the line, whether it's this regular season or potentially in the postseason. And so you look at matchups within matchups and some of the nuances of that. But I also just think the sense of how good Philly is defensively, and how they may match up against, Kyrie Irving is out. Of course, Kevin Durant is out, but still James Harden, what he can do and how that changes as we talked about his role of looking to score more and the type of performance he could put up. So I think, despite the fact that there may be some depleted rosters on both sides, it's a part of the game and it's a part of what we see often. So I think for two of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, it will be fun regardless.
Sarah, great stuff. Thanks so much for a few minutes and enjoy the rest of the season.
To you guys both as well.
As we bring it back live, the 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets out for Brooklyn, Kyrie Irving and KD. For the 76ers, Ben Simmons and Seth Curry are in, according to the team. So that's great news. And I think, Lauren, when we look at the top of the Eastern Conference right now, there are three teams that have established themselves early in the Sixers, in the Milwaukee Bucks, in the Brooklyn Nets. Miami, once it gets healthy, will probably back up in that conversation as well. Sixers, if they're going to maintain this perch, I think that defense is going to have a lot to do with it, to Sarah's point. Whereas for the Nets in particular and Milwaukee, those two teams might be a little bit more offensive oriented in terms of their foremost strength.
Interesting to hear from Sarah that the Sixers have developed that defensive reputation, because it's something that they have indicated that they want to be known for. They want to set the tone there. More on that during our Tissot keys to the game. But it was cool to hear Sarah give the Sixers props for the defense that they do have. They are continuing to be one of the league's top defenses right now with the 4th best defensive rating in the league, but also leading the league in both blocks and steals. But the Nets are leading the league on offense. They are scoring more than anyone else, and they are hitting their shots with accuracy better than anybody else right now. So it could be a really interesting offense versus defense battle tonight.
All right, Lauren, I'm going to let you kick it off. Keys to the game presented by Tissot.
Sounds good. I did give you guys a little bit of a tease of what I was going to go with. I said find
Sarah,
that defensive
the Nets,
spark.
obviously, one of the most compelling teams.
It was missing just a little bit during the game on Thursday. The Sixers said post-game, Doc Rivers said post-game, that they need to find their defensive intensity sooner. Obviously, a lot of that was due to no Ben Simmons, who is expected to play tonight. But if they can find that defensive spark that they are claiming to make their money on and keep it lit throughout the game, I think it will go the Sixers' way.
All right. Love it. And I will go micro on your key to the game. And my key is mix it up, and that's in reference to the coverage on James Harden. Certainly you've got a weapon in Ben Simmons back in the fold. Would like to see Matisse Thybulle get a crack at him every now and then, but I think with someone like James Harden, who can be so dangerous and prolific, you just got to give him a steady dose of different. And that's what I hope to see from the 76ers tonight.
Love that key, Seltz. If nothing else, we know that Ben and Matisse are excellent perimeter defenders. They will have their hands full tonight with Mr. Harden.
Sarah, the Nets, obviously one of the most compelling teams. So we tonight have a big matchup between the 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets. Might not have all the star power that we had hoped, but still plenty of it for the 76ers. At the end of the day, listen, this is still a big game because it's a division game. More importantly than that, it's a conference game. And if they're able to get this one tonight, it'll put 3.5 games between themselves and Brooklyn, which is not insignificant despite how still relatively early it is in the season. So I, for one, Lauren, I'm excited still.
I am also excited. Always a pleasure to be in this building. As I think I say every time I am here, though, I really miss all the fans. Those of you that are tuning in right now and can't be in the building, we miss you so much. Please stay safe out there. Please enjoy tonight's game. And Seltz and I will be back with you as the team hits the road, headed to the Western Conference for 4 games. And that trip, I believe, begins tomorrow with the first game on Tuesday night.
It'll be late night, 7-6 live, but we will be doing it. So we'll talk to you then when the team is out west. Lauren, thank you. Thank you to Ryan Coletti and Trevor Gaffney behind the scenes. Christian Crosby, Sixers ENT, DJ Jazzy Jeff, love that, and Sarah Kustok from the Yes Network. Enjoy the game, everyone, tonight. We'll talk to you soon. See you.
We are just moments away from Sixers basketball on NBC Sports Philadelphia. You can also tune in to 97.5 The Fanatic. I want to remind you guys, it is City Edition night presented by StubHub. You see us rocking it. I can't wait to see our team rocking those jerseys. I got nothing more to say, but let's go Sixers. It's game time, y'all. Here they come. Let's go Sixers!